Hello.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I don't see you for some reason. Oh, here you come. Here you go. Mike is sitting on a stairwell.
Yeah, sorry. I
Okay.
had to get creative in the last minutes.
Okay, so we're going to put you up on the screen here.
Sure.
Actually, let me make this smaller just a sec. I will show you the rest of the class in a moment, but first I'm going to introduce you. Everyone, this is Mike, co-founder of Push, a fitness tech company based out of Toronto. He's going to tell you what he does at Push. I want to tell you a little bit about something Mike isn't expecting me to talk about, but I think is an important thing for you guys to be aware of. Mike is a guy who wears many hats, and in a previous life, or in a maybe a life he's winding down, he was the founder of something called the Sustainable Design Awards. And Mike and I used to work together at a kind of sustainability, at the sustainability office at Oak Head University prior to me coming here. And the reason I bring this up is one of the things that characterizes, I think, all of our speakers and those of you that are really making a life as a kind of person invested in new technology work is you're really a willingness to learn new things and change gears. It's a really valuable quality. So Mike has, I think we've just lost Mike. No, we haven't. Oh. I heard the noise of losing you. So Mike has this kind of wonderful background in engineering, in industrial design, an abiding interest in sustainability, and now he's moved into wearable technology. And this is a really fascinating set of interests. And I see it in you guys. Those of you that are, I think about just to pick on two people like Abby and Kelly, Abby who's went to a conference last week all about emerging video technology, a really changing field. If you want to be making video today, it's not like it was. So you need to be constantly learning new things. So I want to use Mike as a kind of inspirational example of somebody who's constantly learning new things in order to kind of progress in this changing world. Mike's going to talk to us today about Push, his startup company. And do you want me to start with the video, or do you want to say anything?
Yeah, might as well start with the video.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome. Hopefully the signal stays strong.
We're good so far.
Awesome.
Just one sec.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show Mike's promotional video. Push.
For decades, elite athletes have used research equipment to track and improve their performance. We've taken the science and developed a groundbreaking device that analyzes every movement you make at the gym. With Push, training will never be the same. Push. Strength in numbers.
A year and a half ago, I injured myself while I was weight training, and I realized at the time that I was lifting at the wrong weight. During my time off, I wanted to research methods that could help me better predict the weight that I should be at. During my research, I've discovered a whole set of tools that are used by elite athletes and researchers to help them better predict the weight they should be lifting at. And when I discovered those tools, I found that they're complex and expensive. And at that point, I set out to build my own alternative. Speaking with experts, I've learned that at the core of strength training lay three key metrics: force, power, and velocity. With Push, you'll be able to track and analyze these metrics, helping you optimize your training. You can also plan your training program, track your progress over time, and share it with friends. Using Push, you'll get more out of your training.
At Push, we don't make up metrics. We don't want to hide your fitness data behind a fake scoring system. Instead, we show you the real numbers underlying your workout using the same measurements that the pro athletes have been using for years. All of our results are scientifically validated against the gold standards in the industry to bring you the most accurate information about every single rep in your workout.
Being a coach myself and working with many athletes in the past, I've used Excel. It's tedious, it takes time, and it takes coaches away from what they do best, and that's working with the athletes one-on-one.
Coaches will be able to easily track and monitor each athlete's training program and modify existing programs, while athletes will be able to receive this information instantly.
As the lead designer at Push, I spent a lot of my time talking to coaches, trainers, and athletes to really make sure I understand what they need in this product. And I think we've got it. We made a really durable device that's easy to use and really comfortable to wear.
We've come a long way over the past year and a half, and with your help, we can make Push a reality. Support our campaign, be part of the story, and help us develop the best tool for analyzing and assessing strength.
Okay, so we're going to make one last change. I'm going to let you see everybody without losing connections to my many things.
I actually can't see anything on your screen right now.
Interesting. Okay, why is that? My camera's not on? Where do I? There it is. There it is. See, everyone's gonna help me. My video is turned off. Yes, I know that. Why is my video turned off?
There we go.
There it is. Okay, now you can see me. You can see everybody else. And we're gonna go full screen. And then Mike is going to attempt to. He's really huge right now, but he's going to share his own screen with us.
Yeah.
So let me just. So everyone say hi, Mike. There we go.
Hello.
And I'm going to move out of the way. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Let me know. Is that looking good?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so thanks again for having me. This is really great. Good, display of technology to get us all talking same time across the continent. So as Jesse said, my name is Mike. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Push, and we're a fairly new company. We've been around for a year and a half. We've been incorporated for a year and a half, and we've gone from an idea to a product in literally 2 years. And when I say product, I mean something on the market and selling. So today I'm going to talk to you about doing just that. So taking an idea from its very initial stages all the way to market. And specifically the context will be through the lens of a hardware company, which is what we're doing. My email is down there. If you want to get in touch, feel free. So Push. So yeah, we're a wearable device company. So okay, yeah. So obviously this will be done through the perspective. Sorry. All right. So this presentation will be from a hardware perspective. That's what we are. So if I'm repeating myself, just tell me. We're a hardware company. So we're developing a wearable device for weight training. So it's a wearable device that you wear on your forearm. And it tracks and analyzes everything that you do at the gym. So counting your sets, your reps, and giving you really important feedback that elite athletes have been using for decades in training their bodies. And so we're basically democratizing this data. So instead of requiring an athlete to go to a advanced research center or to a university biomechanics lab, they can wear one of our devices and get really high-end metrics to tell them how they're progressing in the gym, which ultimately affects how they do on the field. And so, yeah, we're developing it, and we've started from scratch 2 years ago. It was just a concept, an idea, and we built it all the way out, and we're cutting steel, we're doing manufacturing like just starting right now. And so this talk is going to be about going from that very early stage all the way to market. So just before I get into it, just a bit of background about myself. Jesse kind of alluded to it. I've had kind of a really meandering path to getting here today. I started as a mechanical engineer, and then did a master's in biomedical engineering, worked in the healthcare field for a long time, and then decided that I wanted to get creative and get back into my kind of artistic roots. And so I got a job at an architecture firm, and then ultimately went back to school to do industrial design. And I say this, I give you this context just so that you know, A, where I'm coming from, and B, to know that your first educational stab isn't always necessarily your last. And it seems like when I first started going to school, they came in and said, it's a new world. You'll probably have 3 to 5 careers in your lifetime, whereas our parents had 1. I think you guys are at an even more accelerated place where you'll probably have 10 to 15 careers in your lifetime. And I've certainly seen that. So my last educational experience was in design school at OCAD University, and that's where I met Jesse. And so design school was great. Learned a ton. It was very liberating compared to my engineering roots. And so design school, as you guys probably know, is great to come up with ideas, and it's great to get you thinking about what you're designing, what you're creating, have really strong concepts, and build things out to the prototype level. I know you guys are all in a mixed variety of backgrounds and disciplines, but this is kind of traditional industrial design education as I know it anyway. You build from the ground up great ideas, and you build prototypes, but that's about as far as it goes. Design school is not great at developing real products that live in the market. And so I put this talk together to give you a sense of what happens outside of school. So if you think in your class, if you're doing any product design or industrial design or anything where you're developing a concept and moving it forward to a prototype, I'm going to try to fill in the blanks on what happens after that. And so I talk about 10 nonlinear steps from idea to product, and I put this little diagram in because it is a jumbled mess, especially in the hardware or the tech space where there's a bit of pressure to move. There's a lot of pressure to move incredibly fast, and there's lots of different reasons for that. But essentially, there are technology is advancing so quickly and is so kind of ubiquitous throughout the world that you can kind of guarantee if you've got an idea, there's a bunch of other people around the world that have the same idea. And so you have to move fast, you have to raise money, build the product really fast to get it out there so that you have a shot at making a successful product. But it's really important to note that although this is a kind of a linear slideshow, these steps happen all intermittently, and it's not as clean as what I'm about to talk about. So obviously at the very beginning, you've got the idea, the concept of what you're starting with, and so that's kind of that's the foundation of the company, and so you really need to believe in it. You really need to have something that you really care about and that you're passionate about, not just from a monetary standpoint, but more from a ideological standpoint, and just in an area, in a field that you're really passionate about and really comfortable with. Because in a startup, you kind of live and breathe this stuff every day, 24/7 for years. And so you really need to be invested in the field that you choose. But the idea I put as number 0, because the idea is just the starting place. It's the foundation, but it's really a very, very small part of the whole puzzle. And I think in our culture right now, ideas and kind of concepts are really important and really celebrated. But as I'm learning, taking an idea all the way to market, it's really a very small part of the whole process. Okay, so yeah, I think the team is all obviously really important who you put together. So we started with this group. Well, it initially started with 3 co-founders, and then we expanded the group. Right now we're at about 12, and we're hiring a few more. But obviously the team is who does the work. So I found it really important to take people who are risk takers and like really hardcore problem solvers. And basically the risk taker part is because in a startup there's not a lot of money and you have to work incredibly hard. And so this is not your most stable income set that you could possibly get coming out of school or while you're in school. But it's really exciting because you typically have your hands in every jar. You're touching every part of the company. And so it's exciting and very incredibly varied day to day. But the other big thing is you have to be really passionate about attacking problems head on. Because everything is new to the team, everyone has to be in the mindset of that they want to tackle interesting new problems. And so it's really important to hire correctly. And so I don't know if any of you are looking at trying to get employed by a startup, but if I could give you a little bit of advice, definitely being keen, hungry, knowing the kind of the industry that you're looking at, and really showing some depth of knowledge in 1 or 2 areas is important. But again, the big things that I see are people who are willing to take a risk and are incredibly hardworking and eager to solve problems. And then iteration. I'm not sure if you guys talk a lot about iteration at your school, but at OCAD, it seemed like the biggest kind of buzzword. And the idea is in the design process, there's a stage where you're just constantly evolving the product or the idea. You're pumping out lots of prototypes, you're testing ideas, you're building models, experiencing the models, getting feedback from users. And at the time when I was in design school, I thought it made theoretical sense, and I would kind of go through the motions of building prototypes. But now that I'm in kind of quote unquote the real world, I realize how incredibly important prototyping and iteration is. I would say it's one of the most important part of product design is building something as best as you possibly can, thinking through all the different scenarios, use cases, really trying to understand your user, but as soon as you possibly can, build a prototype and put it in the hands of a user or test it yourself to see if your kind of assumptions are correct. And what I found is that you learn very quickly whether you've had correct assumptions or not. And and so as you can see in the slide on the top left, that's our very first prototype. It's a black box with a bunch of duct wires hanging out of it, so it's really ugly, really nasty. It just barely got the job done. And then after that, we continuously pumped out 3D printed prototypes to make it smaller, make it more lightweight. And I showed you these three iterations at the top because this was the idea that we had, where the device, the hardware would actually go onto a barbell to be used to replace a spring collar. And recently we've ditched that idea. I don't know, that was probably about a year ago. We completely left that idea based on users' feedback, where they didn't want to be carrying around spring collars, these big things, which are about the size of a can of Coke. They didn't want to be around at the gym, so at that point, we kind of pivoted the whole company and developed a wearable device instead, so that the user could, capture more of what they're doing at the gym instead of only being restricted to barbell exercises. So this is a whole new area for me. This is what I didn't learn about at all in school. This is how to make money from investors and come up with a business model. And so basically the idea is you want to have a really sound idea of how your user operates in a normal scenario. So in our case, we've got an elite athlete who works out 5 to 6 times a week. They go to the gym and they write down everything on a pattern paper and are getting directions from their coach. And so there's a lot of pain points in there that we kind of drew out that we could really build our business around. And so this came, the whole business model came about through going to gyms, going to universities around North America, talking to coaches from around the world, and really understanding what their issues are and what possible solutions were for them. And so we would talk to coaches and athletes all day, every day for months. That was, would take up a lot of our time. And so we would be kind of iterating the business model in real time while we're talking to these people. And so while we're kind of hashing out the details of our idea with the coaches and the athletes, we're kind of building buy-in from them that will allow them to become early adopters down the road. And so we're kind of batting around questions, batting around ideas, and then eventually we start selling the dream that we have on how we're going to revolutionize the gym and workout, athletic training. And which is a huge part, and we would start getting people really excited, and we could start pulling in influence from some major coaches from around the pro leagues. And so that's the kind of biz dev piece that is really important. It's kind of networking, which sounds, I guess, kind of obvious, but it's really important as it's the kind of foundational user testing that you do, is building those relationships, building up a user base, even though at the outset they don't know that they're users, and we wouldn't even call them users. They're just coaches and athletes who are interested in making their lives better. And then once we had a kind of a substantial set of these advocates of what we're doing, we could turn around and take the kind of the learnings that we got out of that and start building our product, and also start building up a case for why we need funding and why it would be a great idea for investors to get on board and give us money to see our product through. And so fairly early on, we got a bit of money from Jolt, as I was mentioning before, which is a business accelerator. And there's lots of accelerators or incubators out there. Silicon Valley is obviously notorious for lots of great startups, and they've got tons in San Francisco. And but there's business incubators probably in every major city around, I don't know, North America at this point. And so that's a great source of funding, great source of mentorship, and it's really a pretty good catalyst for getting an idea off the ground. And then so that's at the kind of seed phase, which means the very first injection of capital into your venture. And then after that, you go on to raising a bit more money. So the seed phase is typically between $10 to $200,000, $300,000, which will typically won't get you through the first year or two if you're a hardware company. Software companies are a little bit less capital intensive. And then the next stage of funding is called a Series A, which is where you're talking in the $5 to $10 million range, and that's kind of what we're going after next. And basically, from a funding standpoint, the investors want to see milestones that you hit, or that you set out for yourself, and then you hit them. So for us, that has been run a successful crowdfunding campaign, which we've done, build up a sizable user base, which we've done, and the next one that we're tackling right now is land pro teams, land sales from pro teams. So we've got a system at the Detroit Lions, the football team in the NFL, and we're installing a system at the Dallas Stars. So those are a couple of proof points that we needed for ourselves and for our investors. And then the next big milestone is to ship our product on time. So we're launching our product kind of officially to the market in the summer. And when we hit that mark, that'll be kind of another proof point to investors that we have a big dream, and we can also deliver on that dream. Okay, so the next slide, which is number 4, IP. So intellectual property. So this is a really sticky one. This also, unless you're doing a law degree, you probably don't know a whole lot about intellectual property and patents. And basically the idea is that it seems like a very structured, logical world, the world of law, or at least it did to me. But in actuality, it's a very, there's a lot of kind of loopholes, and there's lots of subjective lots of things are subjective, and it's not cut and dry like it seems like it should have.
How would you rate the skull? Problems were bad. No. We don't need to.
Hey.
Not cut and dry like it seems like it should have been.
Okay. Yeah. So there's so much subjective. It's such a subjective world where you basically what you do is you file a provisional patent, which is the first step, and that gets you coverage in the States and in Canada for basically a year. So you write down everything that you're planning on doing on a piece of paper. You draw some diagrams, put it into a sealed envelope, and send it into the patent office. They put that envelope in a drawer and don't touch it. You then have kind of sealed your idea, and there's a date on the idea. As soon as the patent office receives it, that's the date that's on the envelope. And then as you move forward, you've got a year to file a real patent, which costs more money and takes longer than the provisional patent. And so once at that year time, you have to file a real patent where they open up your provisional patent envelope, look at what you've claimed your idea was back then, compare it with your real patent application. If they're the same, then it's as if you've written your real patent when you submitted your provisional patent. So the bottom line is that the provisional patent system just buys you a bit of time. Did somebody have a question?
No, you just cut out for a bit. You're good.
Okay. And so my advice at this point, which I think changes daily, but basically I think it's just a part of the game to get a patent or to get many patents. It's not foolproof. If you get a patent in the patent office, people can challenge you, they can. It doesn't mean that you're 100% protected. It's kind of a loose gray area where it's a bit of protection, but it's not guaranteed. And if it really comes down to it, from my perspective right now, if somebody wants to sue us and they have a massive legal department, they will likely be able to because we have a small legal department. And lawyers cost a fortune, so you have to be very careful with what law firm you go with to be adequately protected, but also not to lose your shirt. So this is a screenshot from a Mashable article about us. This is kind of showing what marketing is all about. So marketing, I'm not sure if you guys take marketing courses. I've never taken one. Again, something that I never really thought about too much. I knew that marketing was important, but I kind of underestimated it. For our crowdfunding campaign, which was through Indiegogo, which is a similar platform to Kickstarter, the marketing aspect was such a massive part of what we were doing. It gave us street cred. It got us onto screens all around the world. This article alone got us, I don't know, I forget how much, like $8,000 in sales directly from the article. And Yeah, and so having a good marketing strategist and a good PR firm, I think is a really underrated but incredibly valuable thing at different times in a company's life. And so when you're starting out, I think it's really important to be able to launch with a bang and get your product in front of a lot of eyeballs. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Awesome. Okay, and then to the next slide. So I talked a little bit about this before, but user testing is probably the core element of our product, or of our business, sorry. So we've been talking to a lot of big teams. There's a bunch more. We've been in touch with about 20 teams now that are in pro leagues in the States, and it's really honed our product and our whole business model actually by talking to the pros, by talking to the best people in the world at what they do. They're giving us kind of free gold and allowing us to take that and to develop a product around their needs. And so I can't emphasize how incredible user testing has been for us. And when I say user testing, I mean from talking to people on the phone, to visiting them in their gym, to running, to giving a bunch of beta devices to a whole team, letting them use it, and gaining feedback through that way. It's been a huge part of our business. And there's a bunch of different kind of methods for user testing. In the software side, there's something called A/B testing, which means you deploy one set of software to 50% of your user group, and then you deploy a second set of software to the other 50%. And you test different things. Like let's say the background color of your app is black for one group, and then the background color for the other group is white, and you test who, if people use one more versus the other. It's kind of a pretty straightforward way of doing it. And then there's other things like focus groups and usability testing, where you just you're testing different parts of your product out with the user, so that they get their hands on it, they experience it, and they give you real live feedback on what they think is right and wrong about your product. And it's just incredibly important, and something that's talked a lot about in school, but it's at the heart of our business model. Next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something that I've been learning the hard way recently. It's dealing with getting quotes, timelines, and consultants and contractors. So as a startup, you can't do everything yourself. It's impossible. And so you have to hire out either to consultants or contract workers to do work for you. And there's a really a lot of it comes down to trust and personal referrals. So if you're a natural networker, that's great. If you're not, if you want to start a company, I highly recommend you start networking. And what I mean by that is just talking to people in your field, going to meetups, talking to profs after class, just literally just talking to people about what you're doing, what your ideas are, and engaging in conversation. is like one check mark for how you'll be able to tell whether they're a good contractor or not. And that personal relationship that you have is worth its weight in gold, because everything else is kind of subjective. And by that I mean, if you go to a consultant or contractor's website, they'll tell you how great they are and how they can do everything. But if you don't know them personally, you're taking a big gamble. Whereas once you know the people or you're getting personal references, then there's a bit of comfort that comes with that. And so at a startup, it's really important to be able to again hire out work. It'll allow you to go a lot faster, and so understanding how to make those connections, understanding how to get quotes, how to timelines, and how to kind of push consultants and contractors so that they're moving quickly, but burning any bridges. It's a fine balance, a really interesting dance. Okay, so this is kind of a necessary evil. There's a bunch of certifications here that I've listed. Most of them we need. The CE mark on the left is just for Europe. FCC is selling if your product has a Bluetooth module. In the States, UL is for batteries. CSA is for Canada, and FDA is for medical. So you don't need all of these depending on your product, but basically the bullet point for this whole slide is that to put a product on the market, there are checks and balances that you need to go through, and they cost a few $1,000s each, and they will take a few weeks to do. If it's a medical product, it can take up to 5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But again, this is just something that I'm bringing out because I didn't think about it at the outset of this project, and it's a relatively large piece of the puzzle. Or a surprisingly large piece of the puzzle. It'll take us about a month to get our certifications and a few, maybe $10,000. So this is an interesting one for me. So obviously not all products have to be mass produced. Depends on your business model and what you're making and what your goals are. For us, we're a hardware company and we're selling a kind of an elite product to high-end users. And so by mass production, I mean we're running tens of thousands, or the first run will be thousands and tens of thousands of products. And so this is a... Before doing this product, I actually thought mass production was a horrible idea, and it's a really dirty game. But now, once I'm in the middle of this project, I see that mass production is actually a fairly efficient way of producing a good. And plastic is the kind of medium of choice for a lot of things. And so injection molding mass production is something that I think is an important part of our culture now. I think most of the things that you use in your daily life, like the laptop that you're using, the pen that you're writing with, I don't know, shoes that you're wearing, everything is mass produced these days. And I think there's there's tons of awesome parts about it, but from my kind of sustainability-minded side of things, I see lots of kind of downsides to it and consequences of doing mass production. And so we are making a lot of stuff, physical stuff. So we've taken it into our own hands to produce everything that we're making here in Toronto. And so that's soft goods are being fabricated here. On electronics is being assembled here. And so that's one way of having really tight control over what you're doing and the quality of what you're doing. And it's also a way of ensuring that the workers are treated fairly, because we in North America we have higher standards, working standards than a lot of countries overseas. At the time, or at the current time, that's the case. I know we are talking and working with some factories in China, and they are stepping up their game in terms of in terms of the worker conditions. So this slide is an interesting one. It's kind of confusing to me, or it's a bit of a there's a bit of a rub when I talk about mass production, even though I'm involved in it. So it's an eye-opening experience being in factories and working with people who are doing injection molding and doing mass production. But it's not as dirty as I kind of first imagined it would be. It's actually a pretty efficient process. So this is kind of the final peg. Is when you start a company, when you're doing a quote unquote startup, there's sometimes people have this idea that you're just starting something and then you'll be acquired or be bought out by a bigger company in the next 6 months to a year. And I think that happens sometimes in Silicon Valley with software companies, because you can scale really quickly if you're just making an app, for instance. But if you're making a hardware startup, at least from our perspective, we're going at it trying to be a sustainable company as opposed to just being a startup. And so we're building up the infrastructure to allow ourselves to be sustainable and last for years, if not decades. And it's challenging, and it all kind of comes down to sales. Like, you need to have money coming in through sales channels to sustain your business. And so again, this is something that you don't typically talk about in design school, but it's how you stay afloat. It's how you make money. And so this again comes back to relationships and networking, where talking to people, talking to coaches and athletes from the start is how you build brand loyalty and how you build a really strong network of users and hopefully advocates and evangelists who will, once they've been using your product and loving it, and they've been involved from the ground up, then as you build your business, these people continue to use it and continue to kind of spread the word about your product, and that's what you're really going for, is that word of mouth referral, so that you can have a really strong business that naturally and kind of organically grows. And and I think I'll leave it there.
All right, Mike. We'll try and well, thanks, Mike. Let's give Mike a round of applause. We can't see him. Question askers? No, you stand up there, or just stand up there and ask the question from there. It's fine. He can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
What was your biggest challenge during the early stages of your
Look
startup?
here.
Oh.
Well, you don't have to come all the way up.
What was your biggest challenge during your initial stages during the startup?
Biggest challenge. There literally there's the biggest challenge happens on a daily, like every day. I would say that one of the biggest challenges recently has been moving fast and hitting timelines. So again, I mentioned this before, but because we're dealing with so many contractors and people who are just helping us out, and they're not sitting right beside us in our office, it's a challenge to get them to set a timeline and stick with it and develop or deliver on their promises on time. And so I've found that now, more recently, I'm kind of in this manager role where I'm dealing with a bunch of contractors and constantly running back and forth, checking on them, making sure they're doing what they said they were going to, making decisions, and keeping the ball going on a lot of different fronts at the same time. So it's kind of this management role that I didn't really anticipate coming into this project, but that's kind of what I do most of my day now.
Other questions? Yeah. Go.
Do you feel like is it more difficult now, or was it more difficult starting up?
I mean, again, there's challenges to every stage. I think for these first 2 years, it's been fairly challenging the whole time. We've continuously come into new areas where we have to deal with the legal aspects. We have to deal with manufacturing. We have to hire more people. We have to fire people. Basically, every week there's a new major challenge that comes up, and for me personally, because I'm dealing a lot with the manufacturing side of things, right now is like an incredibly stressful time because we're kicking off our production any day now, and that's about a $50,000 investment and about 5 months of, 5 weeks of work where they're literally cutting a block of steel to make our injection mold. So yeah, things are really hairy right now for me. But hopefully in 2 weeks I'll be able to sleep. Excuse me.
I have time for one more question. Nope, we got a bunch of people. Okay, so we have to clear out at 10:02, so we got 6 minutes. But group, and then Josh will get you.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is your product only geared to our high-end users, like professional athletes? And are you going to eventually expand your market to the like Nike Field Band?
Yeah. So a couple points. One, I didn't talk about our business strategy too much, but basically we're going after the pros initially. So professional leagues, teams around mostly North America. That's been our initial target, so that we have this kind of association with these big players. So we're working with some of the top guys in the NFL right now. So in a couple of weeks, hopefully they'll be tweeting about us saying, "Hey, check it out! I'm using Push and I have bench pressed this much weight." And so if we get some of these guys doing that naturally, if they want to do that by themselves, then I think we're not going to have any problem getting into more of the mass market scenario, because I think sports and athletics is really aspirational. Where if you're a high school student, you're looking up to the college and pro players. If you're a college player, you're looking up to the pros. And so we're going after the top of the pyramid to start, and then kind of assuming that it'll naturally flow down to the mass market after that. But in terms of competing specifically with like the Nike Fuel Band or the Fitbit, we're not actually going after the mass market right away. We're always going to be a little bit niche, where we're specifically at weight training, whereas Nike Fuel Band, for instance, is a calorie counter basically, or a step counter, and it's meant for all-day activity tracking, whereas we're really dedicated to like high-performance sport.
Okay, time for one more question from Josh.
Me next?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, let's let's just say that there's an idea that may have potential, but it's rejected. Is it possible that you can improve it?
What do you mean by rejected? Who's rejecting it?
Well, oh boy. I mean, like an idea for a story, for example. Although that may be a little out of topic.
Well, let's say, Mike. Let's say that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I mean, what happens when one aspect of what you do gets rejected by anybody, like a venture capital? Do you have a rejection story that where you've had to regroup in the face of rejection?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I talked about this earlier, but initially we were starting. We had this idea for our device or our technology to go on the barbell, and we would hear over and over again from our users, from people that we're talking to, like, oh, I don't think I want to carry this thing around. It's too big. What about dumbbells? What about if I'm doing push-ups? Then I wouldn't use your device then. And so that was kind of a huge pivot point for us, where we had to stop. We had been going down this road where we were developing this product for months at that point, probably 6 months, and then we had to stop and pivot into a wearable device. So that was a huge kind of changing point. And I think you always have to have this mentality where you're driving forward with a lot of passion with your specific idea. But you also have to have the ability to step back and really evaluate the landscape, and kind of check back now and again to make sure that you're going down the right path, and you're listening to your users, you're listening to your advisors, your professors, because everyone, people from the outside have potentially a more clear perspective. They're not always right, and they don't always understand your full business model or the business potential. But listening to people who are on the outside can give you some great insight into if you should pivot, or if there's little nuances that you've forgotten about because you're so deep into the product development.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so one last round of applause for Mike. Thank you, Mike. And if anybody has other questions, please don't harass Mike by email too much. But we may be able to put them together on our site, and he can check in a little bit with your questions and answers. So thank you, and we'll see you all on Tuesday.
Absolutely.